Hey, I'm right back with another video. It's 2:08 p.m. It is March 2nd, and it's Monday afternoon, actually. Monday Mind Scramble. That's what I'm going to call this video. Um, it was just a hectic morning. I got up this morning, and I thought I was going to have a regular routine. Look for more work, and um, got on the internet, and looks like my internet went out. So it looks like the entire box went out, I guess you'd call it. Anyway, so I had to go down to leave the house, which is something I didn't want to do, and I had to get another box, and then I hooked it up, and then there was problems, and blah, 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 blah. It was just a big drawn-out thing. So then I had to also call the electric company, and they came out and said it wasn't their issue. So, I don't like Mondays like this. I don't like any day like this, really, but, what can you do? It's just part of life. So, I decided to not look for work today and kind of give myself a break a little bit. And so I'm basically, as I said before, I'm just looking for a job. Nothing specific, just something that I can do, and hopefully find something that fairly quickly. It'd be kind of nice if I can find something quickly. So I'm just kind of biding my time for now. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about I know there's a lot of misconceptions that have been going around town, pretty much everywhere, relating to this issue. And I'm not going to talk or drag anyone's name into through the mud right now. It's not an issue. It is an issue, mind you, but it's not something that. Let me just move this a little bit. There's a lot of glare. It is an issue, but it's not something that I'm really focusing on right now. My main issue is for me to kind of heal and get my mind together. I just want to move forward in my mind and forget these people. Sometimes you have to forget people who've caused you harm. And I know there's a lot of misunderstandings, but when you think about the misunderstandings, these misunderstandings were unnecessary, because I think, going back to my 2008 issue, and there's a lot of drama that gets on Facebook, a lot of drama. And I know some people like to get on Facebook. I'm not talking about myself, okay? But there's a lot of people who get on Facebook and they like to promote themselves. Maybe they feel like they want to project an image of themselves that looks like they're maybe living the high life. Some people want to take a bunch of vacation pictures. And for a lot of people who are just looking at their Facebook picture, that never knew them, or people who haven't seen them in a very long time and don't know all the intricate details of their life, some people are going to assume that these people might be wealthy, that they're like rolling in the dough, they've got like this great lifestyle or whatever, and that's just simply not the case, But I think a lot of people want to show that image, or at least, make it seem as though they have those things going for them. Especially, I think a lot of people feel pressured, a lot of societal pressure, because especially, for example, people who remember people that they used to know, and they want to make sure that they're not perceived as like losers or something, so they might want to make it look like they're like hobnobbing with affluent people and whatever. And it's kind of silly, really, but a lot of people do it. My Facebook profile of 2008 was very basic, extremely basic, and I know that my ex-family, they probably thought a bunch of things that were going on, but these things weren't true. My life back in 2008, 2009, all those years of this misconception has been going on. It was basically me just going to work and coming home, whatever the case is. It has caused me a lot of grief. And I know I've read articles about Facebook destroying the lives of other people. And I think, other social media sites are pretty much being used to easily target people. And it's easy. Gang stalking and these sort of illegal activities have been going on for many years. I mean, I had mentioned a law that was written back in the 1940s talking about illegal gang activities, and federal laws about gang stalking and how illegal it is and the reason why and the penalties for it. But see, back then, it was easy. Like, for example, if people in your community were giving you grief about something, you could maybe get on a plane or get on a bus and move to another town. Eventually, if this was extreme targeting, it will follow and catch up with you. But you at least had some time. You had some time to try to get yourself, situated in another location. When you have things like social media, this can spread immediately. And see, I wasn't really even aware that I was being targeted until just recently in the last few years, and I realized who exactly was being involved, who was involved in it. You get a lot of people who, what do you call it? These kangaroo courts, lynch mobs, if you will, who come at you, angry, and most of it is based on mob mentality. And then also, people tend to forget that you have rights. Okay, now I don't know what my ex-family or these people that I used to know were all upset about, but whatever the case is, it's like, I'm an adult. And first of all, I think the Facebook thing got blown out of proportion. I mean, there's very little activity on my page. Seriously, when I accessed my account after many years and trying to figure out what was going on, I scrolled down that old profile of mine and I'm thinking, I didn't have much activity on it. Very little. There was a few pictures of me, like I said, one of my son, one of my one of my family members. That was about the extent of it. Okay, but I would say it was a decent picture, and I think people thought, well, and then plus I contacted the boy that I used to like in high school or whatever, and people started creating drama out of it. Okay, I have not seen this person in over 30 years. Okay, I never talked to him, I haven't responded to him, and I'm not saying anybody. Okay, but I understand that people use gossip and it fuels and it spreads, okay? And then that's one of the reasons why they start these little illegal investigations to try to find out, what you're doing and see if you're seeing somebody. When you are gang stalked, like I said, your neighbors are in on it, your landlord, sometimes they're in on it. Everyone is involved in it. And I don't understand how those inconsistencies could actually occur if their investigations were correct. Okay, so I think a lot of it is just people wanting to make up stuff or whatever. I'm not saying him or anybody else, so I think that's kind of ridiculous. Also, I've been divorced for a year and a few months, actually, since October of 2018. And I know that there's people have these rumors about me going back with my ex-husband and everything else, if he even was my husband. That's not true either. You know what I mean? It's just about me forgetting what happened. It was a very traumatizing experience, extremely traumatizing for me. Why? Because, you see that these people are angry and you find out that all these people that are involved in it and not telling you what's going on, and then you find out more stuff and it's like, oh my God, it's absolutely crazy, so it is extremely traumatizing. I did mention in one of my last videos about suggesting that people look at targeted individuals, gang stalking, human trafficking, so that they have a better understanding. I think in the beginning when I started talking about this issue, like I said, we had a lot of people who were maybe higher level education than I am, who kept thinking that they didn't have to, look at what I was saying and think that it had any validity, but it does. Okay, it does, and I was right. Okay, and I'm not the kind of person that likes to say, "Oh, I'm right about this," but hey, I was right about this. Okay, this wasn't an illegal activity, and it was wrong. I think sometimes when family members or people that you used to know, they get involved in this sort of stuff, and people don't think that these things are wrong, but they are indeed wrong, especially if somebody is over the age of 18 years old. I am way over the age of 18. I was just thinking, yesterday, I was thinking about, certain things that went on in my life, and I was looking at this and I'm thinking, gosh, look at all these years have gone by, and I realized that there has been a consistent, and I already knew this, but really looking at it, there is a consistent pattern of ongoing bullying. that has occurred. And sometimes people have the wrong attitude. They do. They have the wrong attitude. I won't ever apologize for anything that I've done. I think perhaps maybe I should have been used a little bit more discernment about Facebook when I first got on it. I really didn't realize that anything could be used against you like that. I just thought, this is a decent picture of me. This is the best picture I had of myself. I put it on Facebook. And since I was new to Facebook, I contacted certain people that I used to know in high school, especially the guy that I used to like. Why not, right? Because I figured we should be friends after all these years, right? I didn't think that people were going to sit here and make up additional details and then create storylines and all this other stuff. How did I figure all this out? It took me years to figure it out, because I had to literally go back in my mind and think about every single thing that I did within that time period. And my life was very humdrum. When I was living in the Antelope Valley back in 2008, I would say the biggest thrill that I got was going to Sizzler, like on the weekend. That's how pathetic it was. It was very pathetic. And I was doing pretty good financially, but it was just like, I just never had any energy to do anything. No real drive to do anything. It was a boring time for me. And mainly I was under a lot of stress because I knew something weird was going on. Like, I knew that all this weird gossip was flying around me. And, I was thinking too, that when I first started that job, it had this feel that people knew me already. So now I'm putting things together. And I kept thinking while I was there, I was in a completely different town, about an hour or so drive from where I was living. And I was working in Chatsworth, and I kept thinking, how is it that these people know me? I felt like they knew me or knew of me. That was kind of strange. You know what I mean? But anyway, I don't have anything to reproach myself for, because I didn't do anything. And I'm not trying to throw the blame on everyone else. I'm just saying I feel as though some people can be very grabby, or they don't understand. They think that because you might be related to them, that they have some sort of right, or that you have some sort of obligation to them. I don't have an obligation to anyone, okay? The only obligation that I have is to my son, and really my obligation stopped when he was 18 years old, because he's an adult now, okay? But as a mother, I'm going to love my son for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? So, but that's not an obligation. That's something that I choose to do. I don't really have anything to give, but you give your time, you give your love, you give all your pampering and all that stuff to that one particular individual, okay? And that's how it is when you're a mother and you love somebody. But I never, ever in my life has it ever been communicated that I had any sort of additional load to carry, or was it ever communicated to me that I had these certain expectations of how my life was supposed to be. Never, ever communicated to me. Like I said, 18 years old, you're out the door. And that goes for my son as well. Like, my son is an adult, and what he chooses to do with his life is his business. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to tell me anything. He doesn't have to answer to me. There's certain times, you want to know what's going on. And if he gives me an answer, and he can either tell me the whole story, but what he does in his personal time, I'm not concerned. As long as he's not harming other people, he's not harming himself, he's living within these guidelines of the law, and he's doing everything fine, then that's his business. I never, and so when I think of what happened to me, it shocks me. It shocks me because, I think what their expectations of me are, they are unrealistic, and I feel like violated by this sort of behavior. So anyway, moving on. So I got my internet up and running, and so I'm just kind of taking this time off to relax a little bit, maybe do some light reading, and then up and doing the same thing tomorrow. I'm just really trying my best to get back to work, because this whole downtime has been psychologically damaging to me. as the whole thing has. I mean, every day I wake up with this idea or this thought in my head, like, how could someone cause so much pain in a person's life? Unjustifiable. In fact, I cannot excuse that sort of behavior. I can't forgive that kind of behavior either. So, and I understand that. I'm a human. Some people will say, oh, but, God says to forgive. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I do to a certain extent by moving on. Because sometimes you can't change people. And I can't change them, and they can't change me. And I accept that. You know what I mean? So it's just move on. I'm not trying to get revenge from these people. I just want to forget them. And it's the best for everyone around. Because, I feel abused. I feel extremely abused, especially when I think about the timeline of all the abuse and when I think of what they've left me with. Like, they left me with this, like, a feeling of fear, constant worry, and then, the whole bringing other people involved into it, and then these misconceptions and all this other nonsense. I didn't deserve it. I didn't deserve any of it, and then I will address the issue of the attempts to force me into a marriage or continually force me into a marriage at another time. Right now, I don't want to go into it. I think I've talked enough about it, but I do. I seriously resent that. I resent it, and it disturbs me. It disturbs me profoundly because you would think that someone would know better. You would think that someone in the United States of America would know better, And I know they use religion as an excuse, okay? I know they do. A lot of people, when they feel like they're losing a fight that you didn't create, or when you, if you do something, like, for example, let's just say, for example, I came into a windfall. I won $1 million. There's always somebody who wants to make you feel guilty for that $1 million. So they'll use religion as an excuse, saying, materialism is bad, blah, 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 when in fact, it's them who really want that $1 million, right? It's the oldest trick in the book. People used to do that to get people out of their property, to get things from them. So it's like, I don't really see where this is a godly attempt, but I do think that it was a personal attempt to where people felt like they wanted to compete me. Really, I mean, I am the person who has what I consider to be pretty humble beginnings. My whole life is humble. I mean, meaning like, I didn't come from wealth. I didn't come from these high society. I didn't even have any high-end aspirations. I felt as though my goals in life, my goals as far as material goals, meaning like how I was going to take care of myself, was reasonable. I felt as though it was, but I understand how the work sector works, okay? And I fully understand how it works now, okay? And, I think that this newer generation should learn other alternatives, which I know that they are. I know that things are going to change eventually. But it is disappointing to know that things could be like this, that things could be so manipulated like that. But what bothers me so much is that it can be manipulated under something like this. Like it can be, like there's really nothing wrong with somebody choosing a job for you. There's nothing wrong with that. Not really, okay? Preferably, and to keep things above board, like, to make things smoother, it's easier if you know who that reference is, who actually introduced you into it. It is easier that way, okay? Why? Because if any sort of miscommunication issues go on, then for example, let's just say, for example, I have a friend named Molly, which I don't have a friend named Molly. I don't have any friends at this moment in my life, okay? And it's sad, but that's just the way it is. But okay, so Molly decides to find me a job. And so Molly says, Maria, I got this job for you, and it's downtown, and you're going to be meeting with the CEO and blah, 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 blah. Please do your best, make sure that you you work, consistently, be polite. He's a very picky person. Make sure you address him as Mr. blah, 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 blah. Give me the details of this. And then I understand that I'm a representative of Molly's reputation, right? So then I'm going to do the best I can to make sure that I don't bring reproach on her. And I'm going to do my best anyway. You know what I mean? I'm going to make sure that, I dot my I's and cross my T's, right? So that there's an understanding there, okay? But when you go into a workplace and these people have their own personal views that violate laws and your rights, and you have these expectations of you that you are not even aware of, they have never been communicated to you, okay? That's wrong. It's wrong, okay? And it's abusive, really, because it always ends up in abuse. I have a long history of this going on. Okay, so it's not necessarily a bad thing to find somebody a job, but when you place expectations on them, that violates their rights, and also sets them up in abusive situations, then that is wrong. Okay, and I'm talking in general. Okay, because this is the issue with a lot of targeted individuals. Okay, a lot of targeted individuals go through the same thing: the workplace mobbings, the gossip, the whatever, and they're not even doing anything wrong. I'm not doing anything wrong at all, at all. And I'm going to reiterate, I'm not doing anything wrong at all. I haven't done anything wrong at all. But, whatever the case is, there are some people who are involved in my employment that really shouldn't be involved in my employment at all, because I don't have any connection to them at all. You know what I mean? But whatever the case is, I am tired, and I'm just going to take the rest of this day and just kind of do some reading materials and maybe clean up a little bit, maybe sweep the floor or whatever. And then tomorrow I will feel much better. I know I have the electric guy just came, and I have to talk to the landlord about getting some repair work done here. Nothing that major, but still, like I said, it was one of those days I wasn't really prepared for it. Because in the mornings I expect to just, kind of have a little warm drink, toast me up, and kind of dig into whatever it is I'm doing. And so when I get thrown off like that, it just kind of really bothers me. It really bothers me. Is there something else I wanted to say? I did want to talk about, I was talking about the expectations of me. I never had those family values. I mean, meaning like my mother, like for example, when I was studying with Jehovah's Witnesses and the first time I started studying with them, she communicated to me that she didn't like them. And I remember her and my dad, when I was really little, having an issue about, my dad didn't want to celebrate Christmas one year. I was really little, and he was basically saying, we ended up celebrating it anyway, but he was basically saying that, Christmas is a pagan holiday and blah, blah, blah. And it hurt my mother because my mother loved Christmas, okay? She loved it, okay? But that was his feeling or his stance at that moment. And I remember when I started studying with Jehovah's Witnesses when I was like 14 when I started studying them. There was a lot of things my mother and I didn't agree with, but she never outright forbid them. What she communicated to me is that we have our differences, but you are your own person. But, like I said, there was a limit on that. Like I couldn't actually formally belong to that religion. I could study with them. I could go to the meetings. I could read their material all I wanted, but I was not allowed to actually make a dedication into that faith, a commitment, until I was 17 years old. That was it. Okay? So when I hear all these new rules that are being imposed on me, which are illegal and completely unappreciated, it shocks me. And it literally disturbs me. I'm disturbed by these people's actions. Literally disturbed. Because it's no offense. I mean, you have the right to believe how you want to believe. But when you impose that on me, and then use other people to get your message across, okay? That's abuse. That's abuse, which I will follow up on that in another video. Wrapping up this video, I hope everyone in Bakersfield has a wonderful day, and I'll be back with another video some other time later. Take care. Bye-bye.